Good morning, everybody. Having my afternoon espresso and cookie with you. We are live on YouTube, and I just finished chewing. So good morning. And today I want to share an extremely powerful lesson that I came across while doing an espresso training, because it applies to every single area of your life. And feeling fulfilled, and also ensuring that you don't go down that path of failure, the path of unfulfillment, the path of living someone else's life. So we'll go right into it. Hi guys, my name is Donnie Rouse, and you are listening to the podcast, One Life. Life parameters. What if I told you that there was a way for you to almost lock in living a happy and fulfilling life? What would you say to that? Would I catch your attention? What I'm about to share with you is a lesson that I became aware of. Well, not a lesson that I've been aware of, but it came to light again as I was training somebody in espresso preparation. And I guess it starts with this. Look at the different categories of your life. You may not all of them, but look at the big ones, like such as your health, your career, your family. What are you moving towards? Said differently, do you have parameters? Do you have a vision for what you want these categories of your life to look like? And if not, what have been the results you've been getting? What I want you to realize is that the results you're getting are completely and absolutely tied to the vision that you have. And if you don't have a vision, that you're not really sure where you're going to going. So as a result, you go wherever the wind takes you. And to go a little bit further into the vision doesn't necessarily even have to be clear, although it helps to have a very, very clear vision, because the more clear the vision, the more you know exactly what to do at any given point in time. And let me tell you about this, why I'm here right now sharing this with you. So I was at my neighbor's, I was doing an espresso training. She had a Breville espresso machine, and not really sure, as I was helping her in her apartment with something, I was like, oh, nice machine. And she explained like how she had gotten it when the cafes were all closed during COVID. She had gotten the machine. I was like, oh, well, you know what? If you want, I'll give you a training on it. So I went over to her house and I started to train her on the espresso. And I was just kind of asking her, saying, all right, well, what do you do when you're pulling a shot of espresso? And she went through saying that, she puts the portafilter in. She keeps the portafilters on top of the machine. It presses it in, grinds like an abundance of coffee into that portafilter. I don't even know how it was able to all fit in there. And, and then she'd pull it. And, once the brew was finished, and she would just add milk, and that was it. When I then took those portafilters and I started to take that and go through the process too, but this time applying parameters to it. So the first and foremost is that, all right, like we got to keep that portafilter in your machine, because you're dissipating heat by keeping it on the top of the machine. You're literally, once the coffee's brewed, you're zapping it, and you're taking 20, 30 degrees out of the coffee like that. And she goes, okay, well, that makes sense. I like to keep it up there so this way I could switch on and off. And I was like, no, you're ruining your coffee. Next thing I went to grind the coffee. So I pushed it in, the coffee ground to the filter, and when I measured it, it was like something like 20 grams or something that I didn't even know that these small portafilters were capable of holding so much. And when I then weighed it, I was like, all right, well, my ratio is like 2.8 grams to for every gram of coffee. May not make sense to you right now. Doesn't matter. So I put the coffee in the machine, and then I pressed the button. What the coffee finished brewing in literally less than 10 seconds was just meant that the extraction was way, way too quick. As a result, it was bitter, astringent, had like this acridness on the sides of the tongue. It was not good. And then so I told her, I was like, all right, well, listen, I know you're not going to be weighing it out, but at the very least, I can give you parameters to, we'll adjust the grind, and I'll give you parameters. So this way you know what to look for when you are making your cup of coffee. She goes, okay. And I started to explain brew ratios to her, and that went right over her head. So I tried to simplify it down so this way I can make it even easier for her. I said, listen, you have the amount of coffee that goes into your portafilter. You have the amount of liquid that comes out of the portafilter, And then you have the time in which that entire process takes place, right? So we're talking about the brew ratio. Brew ratio is grams in versus grams out. And she goes, okay, I get that. And I said, if you only remember one thing, let's try to aim for a brewing time of 25 seconds to 30 seconds. And you want to make sure that you're within a certain range. If you have a graduated cylinder, you can see that you're in between like around 2 ounces. Easy. Perfect. So as we started brewing this, I started brewing shots, slowly adjusting and fine-tuning the espresso. So this way she can see that as every little adjustment I made, how it improved the cup. And as we started to using the same grams of coffee in and the same dose of brewed liquid out, she goes, wow, this one's, as we tasted through the espressos, it started to get more and more pleasant. Until we got to the point where I said, okay, your machine is set, right? I know you're not going to weigh out your coffee. I know you're not going to weigh out the finished product, but when I press the button, I know exactly it's going to dispense 47 grams of liquid out. And when I grind, it's going to put in something like 16 plus grams in. So we have a somewhat of a benchmark here. As I left, I thought about this. I was like, oh, this is interesting because it's really a metaphor for life. When you think about the shot of espresso, and this morning I was thinking about the training I did for her and how it related to, as I was making my espresso at home, I was like, oh my gosh, it's so interesting. Because as I made my espresso at home, I did my ratio. I do 14.3 grams out. I do 14.3 grams in, 34 grams out. Roughly the Italian, like the standard Italian brew ratio for Italian espresso. But here's the thing. Like when I brewed it, sometimes the espresso comes amazing. Other times, like something is a little bit off. But the timing and the brew ratio is exactly what it was supposed to be. So what gives? And I thought about it. I was like, well, you know what? Just because I hit the right parameters doesn't mean that I'm going to get the perfect shot of espresso. But what does not using the parameters give me? What does that mean for my espresso, aka for your life? If I'm not using parameters, if I don't know what's going in, if I don't know what's coming out, then there's no freaking way my espresso is going to taste like crap every time. Right? I might be able to get close, but there's not going to be any consistency nor enjoyment. At the very least, by using the parameters, like I know that I'm going to get within a range, and at the very least, it's not going to suck, but it'll be enjoyable. And isn't it true for life, right? If you know exactly the destination, if you know the general area of where you're going, it doesn't even have to be exactly where you're going, but even if you know the general area, are you more likely to enjoy the ride than if you were just literally wandering around aimlessly? Isn't it going to be more enjoyable? Isn't it going to be less stressful? So as I was doing this, I thought about it. I was like, that's so interesting because it's like life, right? Like I could, in growing my company and expanding my cold room production, there is absolutely zero guarantee that I will be successful at it. I mean, I could be determined and I could say, well, as long as I'm willing to commit to it, I feel very confident in my ability to be successful and to bring it to the level that I want. But that is there's no guarantee, no guarantee at all. And especially looking at that process, if I don't have someone who's been there, if I don't know what the parameters are that are going to lead to my success, right? If I'm just going into it blind, then the chances of me succeeding are nil. But if I have a system, if I know what the parameters are, then I could give myself the best chances of success. And what that means for me, the parameters for success mean, like me, well, building the company, but not leaving out life. I've been going through this One Life Blueprint, teaching people the framework on how to apply this to their life. And each time I do it, it is transformational for me because I always come away with awarenesses and I dispel disempowering beliefs that I didn't even know were leading the parts of my life. So, I guess in short, what I want to impart to you, what I want to share with you, is that you need to give yourself the time to start to get clear and ask some different questions. Like, well, what is it do I want out of life? If I look out 30 years, what am I going to be proud of? What am I going to wish I had done differently? And ask just a different set of questions. So this way you can go down that path with more clarity. Because by avoiding asking these clarity guiding questions up front, you may go into a direction that you think is right at this time, but you may be, you follow that decision 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the road. Now all of a sudden you are at a place that you don't want to be. So again, it's about just applying conscious thought to your life and saying, all right, well, what do I want? What are the consequences of going after what it is that I want? And am I okay with that? When you can say yes to that last question, you are on the right path. So I hope this episode, just at the very, very least, made you ask some different questions, looking out into the future and just asking, well, what do I want from my life? And the way I'm going right now, is this going to lead me there? Because if it's not, you need to change course. Right? The best, there's a quote, I love hearing it because I think it's so funny. When is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Now. So if you are on the wrong course, the time to correct your direction is right now. Not 20 years into the future, not 30 years in the future, but now. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I hope it made you ask a different question and just to get introspective and look at where you are and say, am I happy where I'm going? Is this what I want? Will this take me to where I want? If so, carry on. If not, get clear about what you want. Change your course. And I hope that everything you want and dream of can be yours if you're willing to work for it. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Share this with 5 people whom you know would benefit from it. And thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you only get one life. Live fully, live passionately, and most of all, live now. God bless you guys, and I will see you next week.